Okay, today I'm going to continue reading The Six Day Hero by Tamar Stein. One of your assignments is to explain the following. There are two statements that were read in chapter 16 that we just finished. The dad says, "This war might end up being the best thing that ever happened to our country. The old city is ours." He says that in chapter 16. The soldier who comes to tell us that Gideon has fallen, has died in battle, he says, "This war has cost us a lot. There isn't a family in Jerusalem that hasn't suffered. While the Israelis had to fight to protect themselves." So, how do you respond to those two statements? Do you believe they are both true? They are both false? Um, if they are both true, how can that be? Because they seem to be completely opposite each other. So that's going to be an assignment, and I will use that as a grade in history. So just make sure it gets turned in. Today, um, we're going to read chapter 17, at least. The lesson of the white cat, when Maddie and Benny are looking at it and they know that this cat has basically saved their lives, because if they had not stopped to pet the white cat, they would have been under the eucalyptus tree when it blew up. And if something as perfect as this cat can get smashed, then nothing and no one is safe. Um, so, and that's a true statement. In this book, it kind of does a couple things. Number one, it is a foreshadowing of Gideon dying. There are lots of foreshadowing of that event coming. Um, Also, it is a statement that Mahdi is kind of growing up in his understanding of what can happen in life, and he's realizing that anything can happen. That life is very fragile and precarious. So the white cat is definitely a symbol used in this book. Um, and for Mahdi, it is kind of the when the cat dies, it's kind of a dying of his innocence. All right, so we're going to continue chapter 17. It's called Explosion. I don't know where to go, what to do. My feet take me to the back alley behind our street. I sink down, elbows against my knees, leaning my face against my hands. I sit like that for a long time, not really thinking about anything. I don't know how much time passes before I hear a little sound, something brushing against a pile of newspapers fluttering under a rock. I slowly raise my head. Yellow eyes stare at me. A spotted black and brown cat crouches near me. It flicks a white tufted ear. It has a scar across its face, and its tail is short, as if it's been pinched off. This is a battle hardened cat, not nearly as beautiful as the Snow White cat. Maybe only the toughest survive. It twitches its pink little nose. I stay as still as possible, barely breathing. Deciding that I seem harmless, it gracefully sits and lifts a paw. It licks and licks and licks, turning its little paw this way and that. I don't know why I'm so fascinated, but I can't seem to look away. I realize that the cat is tending to a cut. It hasn't sailed through the war so easily after all. I dig through my pocket and pull out the crumbly rubella. The smell of cinnamon turns my stomach. I can't imagine eating ever again. "Here," I say. My voice is hoarse, as if I've been shouting. The cat flinches at the sound. It stops licking and tenses, braced to flee. "I'm not going to hurt you," I say softly. "Eat this." and I place the rugula halfway between us. Do cats even eat cookies? The cat puts down its wounded paw. It looks at the cookie, then at me, then the cookie. It's clearly hungry, but it doesn't trust me. I push myself away, scooting down the wall so I sit a bit farther back. I'm not going to hurt you, I tell it again. My voice is raspy and hoarse. The food is all yours. After a long pause, the cat daintily takes 2 steps and sits in front of the cookie. Its green eyes flick to me once more, and then it quickly snatches it and runs off with its prize, limping slightly. I sigh, happy that the cat took the food, sad that it didn't trust me enough to eat it next to me. Marty! Marty! I blink and the cat is gone. Shira's calling. She comes around the corner of the building and stops when she sees me. My heart squeezes at the look on her face. She knows about Gideon. For one small moment with the cat, I had managed to forget. The realization that he's never coming home hits me all over again. This is something terrible that will never be undone. Everyone's looking for you, she says. Your dad's on his way home. We called the base. I shake my head. Maudie, I'm so sorry. I shake my head again. If I try to speak, I'll just cry. You don't want to go home? She asks softly. I shrug. Okay, she nods as if I've clearly explained myself. We don't have to go right away. I push myself to my feet. Let's go to the stadium. My voice is rough and growly. She blinks in surprise. It's not that I want to play soccer, but I can't think of anywhere else to go. We walk in silence. I feel her looking at me with every step, but she lets the silence stay, which I'm deeply grateful for. I really don't want to talk about it. As we approach the field, I see my friends, but they're not playing soccer. They stand in a huddle, pointing and looking at something lying on the end of our field. I trot over to my friends. Shira hangs back. She is always shy around the rowdy boys I hang out with. What is it? I ask, coming up to the group. It feels so normal. My friends are laughing and joking. They can't tell anything is wrong. I can't believe that so much sadness and shock doesn't show on my face or in the very color of my skin. Moishi found a shell, Avi says with glee. Another tail fin for Moishi. I feel a faint echo of jealousy. Lucky, I say, trying to think of what normal people say in situations like this. That's his second tail fin. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I remember wanting one so badly only a couple of days ago. It's the whole shell. It never exploded. Wait, what? I focus where Avi's pointing. He's right. It isn't just a tail fin. It's the entire mortar shell, half buried in the grassy dirt. It's as long as my arm, with a bright green shell and yellow Arabic writing. The black fin tail sticks up. Moishi bends down and scoops up a few rocks. Watch this, guys, he says. He whips his arm back and throws the rock, and it pings off the shell. What are you doing? I say. The numbness around me starts to crack. Everyone knows you don't mess with unexploded mortars. There are posters at school that warn people to stay away and call the police if they find anything. Stop! Moshi looks at me like I'm crazy. What are you worried about? It's a dud. It's not going to blow. He throws another rock and misses. Don't be a moron, I say. You've got to stop. Marty! Shira comes jogging toward us. I don't want her to tell everyone about Gideon. As soon as everyone else knows, it will be real. We should go back, she says, looking uneasy. Brave Marty, Moishi taunts. What's happened? A few days in the bunker turned you into a crybaby? Are you going to run off with your girlfriend? No, I say hotly. You're acting like an idiot. I realize suddenly that I sound like Gideon. The thought chokes me into silence. Shira reaches us. Oh, yeah? Moishi says. Can an idiot make this shot? Marty, Shira says, putting a hand on my arm. We should go back. Don't, I yell at Moishi. Shira's standing between me and him. I can't stop it. Watch this. Moishi spins and whips his arm. A rock the size of a tangerine flies out of his hand. It sails in a low arc. My breath catches in my throat. It nails the half buried shell. I hear a loud metallic chink. A split second later, there is a tremendous boom that almost knocks us down. Everyone covers their heads. We're showered with dirt and stones. A few kids drop to the ground, curling in on themselves the way we practice in school in case we're stuck outside in an air raid. Two kids scream in terror. I can see their mouths open, but for a few seconds I can't hear anything except the ringing in my ears. I scan everyone to make sure we're all okay. Anyone hurt? I shout. My hearing slowly returns. My friends get to their feet looking pale and dazed. The dirt is raw and ripped in a small crater around where the mortar used to lie. We're incredibly lucky. The mortar broke apart into several large chunks that missed us as they flew by. Moishi, you're an idiot, Shira yells and smacks Moishi's arm. There's dirt in her hair and on her clothes. No one got hurt, right? He says defensively. He rubs his arm. Shira left a red mark. That's what matters. We have to get out of here, Mikey says, his eyes too wide. Civil defense will come to see what the explosion was about. Let's go. He's right. We're going to be in so much trouble. Boys drift away, eager to disappear. I turn to follow. Maudie! Maudie! Shira says, pulling on my arm. I shake her off. I don't want to talk about Gideon. Maudie! She tugs on my arm hard enough to stop me in my tracks. Look at David. David stands still, like a statue, 50 feet from us. There are clumps of grass in his hair, and his arms are covered in a fine dusting of dirt. But he hasn't moved to brush himself off. In fact, he stands unnaturally still. I don't think he even ducked when the shell blew. David, I shout to him, what are you doing? Let's get out of here. The police could be here any minute. We need to be gone. He stares at me, so I know he heard me, but he doesn't move. What's wrong with him? I ask Shira, but she's gone stiff. The streaks of dirt on her face are stark against her suddenly pale skin. Look, she says in a small, tight voice. Look what he's holding. Tucked under his arm, like a rolled up newspaper, is another bright yellow mortar. The black metal tail is like a starburst next to his chest. Hmm. Chapter 18 is called Hero. Okay, so Moishi, who I think was correctly called an idiot, throws a rock at an unexploded mortar shell, assuming that it's a dud because it didn't blow up when it hit the ground. Um, these children know that that's not smart. So I don't know why he's doing that. So, chapter 18, Hero. Put it down, I shouted him. What are you waiting for? Just put it down. David won't move. His eyes meet mine, pleading for help, but his legs are frozen in place. His chest heaves as if he can't get enough air. He must have picked it up before Moishi blew up the other shell. He probably thought he would take it home as a souvenir. Now that he knows it could be live, he is scared to move in case it blows. The smallest nudge could jog the trigger wire into place. I can't let myself think about what that mortar could do to him. Shira, I say, breathing heavily. Go get help. Quickly. I have never been so afraid in my life. My legs have gone leaden with fear. My arms are heavy at my sides. My throat is instantly parched. I can barely swallow. Without wasting a second, Shira turns on her heels, flying like the wind toward our neighborhood. David and I are now alone in the field. Where are the civil defense men when you need them? It's okay, I croak, the words nearly strangled in my throat. I lick my lips and try again. It's okay, David. I know that Gideon wouldn't have been this scared if he were here instead of me. I know that the famous spy, Eli Cohen, was never this scared. I know that I'm not really a hero. But I also know that I will not leave my friend alone in the field holding a live mortar. My legs disagree with me. They don't want to move. I concentrate with all my might and manage to take one shaking step toward David. Don't worry, I say, not taking my eyes off David. I imagine that Gideon is walking next to me. I picture his sturdy frame and loping stride at my side. I take another step closer to my friend. See how I'm walking? We can do this. We'll do it together. David's eyes cling to me. As I draw closer, I see that his face is shiny with sweat, his legs trembling from the strain of staying absolutely still. It's not a grenade, I say. It doesn't matter that you picked it up. He blinks. It's just a shell, a dud. But we've both seen the other one explode. Still, I keep talking. Moishi smashed the other one with a huge rock. This won't be like that. It's going to be fine. I take another step. David is 5 feet away. If the mortar blows now, we are both goners. I step closer and raise my hand, reaching for him. Give it to me, I say hoarsely. We'll do it together. David slowly moves a trembling hand. It's like in a dream, a nightmare, when you need to move fast, but everything around you feels like thick syrup holding you back. The cold metal touches my hand. It's heavier than it looks. My palm is so sweaty I'm scared I'll drop it. Slowly, I tell him, my voice still strangled. Nice and easy. David nods faintly, as if moving through water. We kneel together and gently, so gently, lay the mortar on the grassy dirt. It takes every ounce of my self control not to flinch. Nothing happens. I nod. Well done. Now, step away. We're still alive. David grips my hand tightly and slowly, carefully steps away from the device. Our breaths saw in and out. The mortar remains inert in the grass. We take another step back, then another. And then, as if our limbs have suddenly been unlocked, we run, our legs half buckling like noodles. We run and run, crying and laughing as we fly away on wings like eagles. Marty! My dad is running toward us. He is wearing a sweaty uniform and his hair disheveled. Marty! He shouts. My boy! Shira is a few feet behind him. Abba! I scream. Abba! Now I'm really flying. I launch myself at him. He catches me in his strong arms. His chest is solid under me. We're almost the same height. How have I not noticed that we are almost the same height? My dad presses me against him. His prickly, unshaven jaw rubs against my face. I don't mind the scraping burning in the least. I can't believe you did that, he says, and his voice is thick with emotion. I can't believe my son. When did you get so brave, my boy? Uh, David has sunk to the ground, his legs unable to hold him. He's covered his face with his hands, shaking in relief. But I was so scared, I say, my face hidden in his shoulder. I'm not brave. I'm not a hero. I could barely walk. I'm so disappointed in myself, I can taste the bitterness in my mouth. What are you talking about? My dad pushes me away from him so he can see my face. I say, you lost your favorite son. The words slip out before I can stop them. They sound so childish, but they're true. Gideon was the best of us. I hang my head, unable to meet his eyes. I'm not a hero. His grip on my shoulders tightens to the point of pain. Look at me, he commands. He shakes hard enough to snap my neck up. Look at me. His blue eyes are bloodshot and watery. He has deep bags under them. They're not even purple anymore. They're like bruises, nearly black. He looks 10 years older than when I saw him just yesterday. What I saw just now was one of the most extraordinary acts of bravery that I have ever seen. Marty, you almost killed me. He blinks rapidly. I was so scared for you, but you did the right thing. You did it knowing it could cost you your life. For a second, he loses the ability to speak. He takes a shaky breath and swallows heavily. You did it to save your friend. You are the greatest, bravest boy I have ever met. Because you were scared. Because you did what had to be done despite that. He pulls me toward him again and crushes me in his embrace. He shakes in my arms. He's crying. My tough, strong dad is crying in my arms. I thought I was going to lose two of my boys today. Oh, God. And it's a prayer on his lips. I am not strong enough for that. So many feelings swirl inside me that for a moment I can't even understand what I'm feeling. But finally, it becomes clear love. I feel so full of love that my chest is tight and my limbs are warm. I'm alive. I love my dad, and I am so grateful for both of those things. And my dad lowers his head, shoulders bowed as if under a terrible weight. He closes his eyes, shuddering. After a moment, he visibly pulls himself together. Abba, I say, it'll be okay. The same words that Gideon said to me the night before he returned to base. My brother was right about that, like he was about almost everything else. Abba? Yes, Marty. His voice cracks, and he brushes his tears away with a rough hand. Yes, you're right. Come, your mom needs us to be with her. He keeps one hand around my shoulder and holds out the other hand to help David to his feet. Let's get you home, David. As I watch my dad struggle to hold himself together, to care for David, to keep me tucked safe under his arm, I remember what he told me before the war started, that there are all kinds of brave, all kinds of heroes. For the first time, his words make sense. In our own ways, all of us, my dad, my brothers, my mom, and maybe even me, have endured something that only the brave can face. And I'm going to have to stop there. I cannot read chapter